And over here, what we have to do is we have to refresh this page.
Thank you for these.
Oh, sure.
Until, say something.
Say something. Say something, darn it. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Wave.
Welcome back. What the Princess
It
Wave?
yeah, there you go. We're just trying to make sure that you're really online. Now stand on your head. Okay, it's updating correctly.
All right.
You're on.
And then can you just make sure all volumes are up as far as sending?
All right, Sarah, you there? Can you hear us okay?
Back.
That's a creative way of spelling volume. Is the volume good, Sarah? Yes, she says yes.
Okay, we're back.
We are live. Go.
Okay, so I'm going to try to get through some information quickly because the whole point here is we're supposed to be practicing things, not necessarily just. And you're welcome to sit there or move back over, but when we go into the exercises, Melody, then we want you to put the camera that way so that Sarah has a better chance of seeing what we're doing. Okay, so I'm reading to you from my volume of the, what is this officially called? The Labyrinth Reader's Course. And this is the 3-month-long course that is done to learn how to be a reader of the American Book of the Dead or other, basically any time that you want to connect with something, these instructions are going to be invaluable. And because a lot of the intention exercises that we use actually come from this, I was trying to decide last night what exactly to impart to you because there's a lot of information. But essentially, we're just going to be practicing the same things that we've been talking about before. We may do the vitriol today if you want to do that again as a group. I would say that at this point that we just do the first half. We don't want to kick up things too much more for next week, but we do want to have a nice, clear read for, processing the energies that we're going to be working with. So we can do that. The idea of getting to your place of power, the draining exercise, the dreamer's stare, and the social mask. I actually have an EJ version here in this book, so I'm going to do that from here rather than from Coyote's book this time, just so you get a little bit of a different twist on how it's presented. And then the big thing is that we really want to be expanding our ability to hold our attention, even when we have distractions in the room. And the idea then is to be able to always get back to that place of power. So things are going to throw us off out in the world, on a daily basis. And we need to be able to say to ourselves, pop, place of power, POP, get to your place of power, which often will mean not doing anything, just being that still point and observing. And being more of the stalker rather than, the dreamer might be screaming all sorts of things going on. The warrior might be, raging to kick it into gear and take off heads. But this is where the stalker comes in, is to really stalk yourself. This is the whole key to knowing thyself, is to stalk yourself. Stalk everything about you, your hot buttons, your preferences, your desires. When you notice I'm bored or I'm hot or I'm tired or I'm whatever, stalk that, note it, okay, and then go back to what it is that you're doing. You need to give a certain amount of credence to it, otherwise it keeps coming up again. So you need to acknowledge it. And realize that when you're trying to get into a meditative posture, you can wiggle around all you want and you're still going to 2 minutes into it go, oh, this isn't right, and all of those are distractions. So we're going to be doing it today and throughout the level 4 a series of exercises to bring our consciousness and our attention to how difficult it is for us to be in a space for any period of time, especially when things start heating up, when we are exposed to the radiations. So all of this is what we go through at the time of death, which is why it's in the ABD readings, which is training us to be ready to go through that by reading for others who are going through that. And so that's where these instructions come in. So is there any questions up to that point? Okay. So this is basically telling, instructions that we would get if we were starting this 3-month long course. So if we can kind of think about the fact that we're starting at least a 2-week long course, right? That's going to be pretty much continuous, because as soon as we signed up for this course, it started. And it's been happening in the dreaming, and some of us might recognize having been there, especially once you get to the space and things. That's why we don't want to let you know too much about what's coming, because you'll then have an opportunity to recognize things as we go through those spaces, because they're have already been created and we are already going through them. Just the same way we're going through the Bardo all the time. We want to learn and recognize where we're at and how to navigate that without freaking out, melting down because the walls are bending. Or remember, there is no spoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so another emphasis as we go through some of this stuff, because I'm going to share some things that I was reading in Claude's book, is about spaces. So the class space. The classes will be held in distinct spaces, preferably, separate spaces, so that we can open a space, do some work, close the space, and leave. So we're going to have a neutral position to where things are at. So if this was the neutral position for this room, when we're done, we need to be putting the chairs back where they go, the equipment back, lining things up, squaring up the altar, things like that. So in general, there's he had mentioned earlier that in doing this higher work, you can have everything you need in the space and nothing that you don't need. So remember that too much extra stuff, our personal things, our drinks, our bags, our bag of popcorn, whatever we've got, diminishes the space that we've set. And so I've been thinking about how I might teach an altar class to you guys, because you have to be able to sense the space, know what it's like in one situation, and then shift some things and then sense it again and see how that works. So it would be kind of like a day-long thing where we basically start by cleaning a room, setting a room, altering a room, and then taking it through a bunch of different incarnations. So the idea of a contained space is important to any kind of higher level work. So we don't want leakage, we don't want people coming and going, we don't want to diminish the pressure that we've created, because we are being cooked, right? And in this case, we can adjust our own thermostat by leaving the room and coming back. But we don't want to diminish the space in the pot itself. If you have to get out, get out. There's good and bad times to leave a space. And you don't want to, if you're feeling like you have to run away screaming, the best thing you could probably do is sit with that for a minute and then raise your hand and say, okay, right now I'm just feeling like I need to run away screaming. Don't put emotion in it. Don't have attachment to it. Don't give it any energy. Don't minimize it. Don't suppress it. But if you feel like you have to run away screaming, then state that. And there may be a doorway that opens for you.
You state it out loud.
Yeah. Well, if you're the teacher or facilitator or whatever. So basically, before each time we meet, we're going to arrive punctually at the space, and we hold on. I wanna make sure that I'm reading the right one. I think that's the instructions for the facilitator, not the actual group. Training exercise, okay. I just wanna get you the actual instructions for what you need to get, training space. Okay, so the group leader is going to demonstrate a procedure of each exercise, and the other members of the group with other members before it begins. Then we're going to move into into doing the exercise, and then we complete that exercise, and we have a time to journal, and then discuss it. Now, in a perfect world, if we were doing this particular training, we would actually have two separate spaces where we'd be in a space, do the exercise, and then leave the space. So we'll do that a little bit by taking a break or something afterwards, but maybe not in between each one. You don't want to say anything in the training space that's not necessary. So think about if you have a question, make sure it's relevant, maybe think about it rather than just verbalizing everything that comes to your mind. Write it down and see if there's an appropriate time for asking it. But basically when we're within the exercise, we don't want to break that with a bunch of questions. So try to get your questions answered before. If you don't understand, what we're doing then is we're making a conscious break. So we're saying, okay, break, I have a question, get your answer, and then go back. But don't show a lot of emotion. You know, oh, I have this question, oh, that was stupid, you already told me that. That mind chatter isn't necessary, right? So we're just going to kind of leave that out. So just try to be very conscious with what you say, how you say it, and get back to doing the exercise, which is the important part. If an exercise involves a partner, it is assumed that you will be creating a good, strong contact. So there's something about that you're bringing to it, a little extra effort that you're bringing to it. When we do the partner stuff, Sarah, you could potentially use a mirror for that. Because that all works the same way. So if you have a mirror that on the next break or something, you might want to grab that or have it in a position where you might be able to work with that. So except where specifically indicated in the instructions, eye contact should be maintained during the exercise. So our natural response is we want to pull away and look at a different direction. Melody and I have been able to do quite a bit of contact, but there's still this need of the ego to release the pressure because we're not used to staring at somebody's face. And so do it consciously. You know, at some point you have to break, right? So when most, oh shoot, our timer, I can use my phone. Our timer broke, but if you set a timer when you do these exercises, it's better because you're not going to be subconsciously thinking, oh, how long has it been? Have I been doing this long enough? How should I know when to stop? So those are the kind of things that you set up for yourself before you even start. So I'm not going to take too much more time with that stuff. I got onto the wrong page. So this is the draining exercise with EJ's instructions. So I want you to all get to a comfortable position. You're going to take a few big deep breaths. And remember that whatever you experience during these exercises, to note it and then bring your attention back to the instructions, which is for the most part, you're always going to want to be in what's called the God posture or in the lotus position. You can be in the lotus, that's fine. That recirculates the energy. But otherwise, with your both feet on your ground, you're connected to ground, and so you're getting a better flow of energy. When you cross your legs, you're short-circuiting it. So whenever doing exercises like this, it's best to be in that position. That may not always be comfortable. Yes.
May I use that pillow for my back?
Yep.
Pass
You wanna
that down.
switch?
Sit here and I can sit in the chair.
Doesn't matter.
Would it be more comfortable or no?
I think I'm fine. If I just have a pillow.
Yeah.
I
Well, you
think I'll
guys
be
can
okay.
switch at the next break. So, the purpose here is to learn to use a part of your attention to keep the body relaxed and to demonstrate the effectiveness of relaxing the body in quieting the mind and emotions. Close your eyes. Place your attention on your feet. Now release all tension in your feet. Move your attention upward and release any tension being held in your legs. Now move your attention upward to your hips and buttocks, directing them in the same way to release all tension. Feel gravity taking hold of your body and press it downward. Now turn your attention back to your feet to check if any tension has crept back in, and relax the feet again. Do not take for granted that if you relax once, you are totally relaxed. Now bring your attention to your abdomen, releasing the tension being maintained there. Direct your attention to your lower back and release all the tension there. Bring your attention to your chest and upper back, letting the tension go. Move your attention to your neck and shoulders, releasing any tension there. Now, each time you exhale, pass your attention through the body from the feet upward, instantly releasing any tension you notice. Continue doing this until you are satisfied with the body's relaxation. Indicate that you are finished with this exercise by opening your eyes. Be sure to notice when you do open your eyes, your overall sensations in your body and awareness, and also the space, how it might feel different or not from before this exercise. Ready to come back, Melody? We're going to move right into dropping the mask. Relax the body as in the draining exercise, but keep the eyes open. Focus your attention on the face. Use the hands to clear the tensions by wiping the face downward with the hands, including jaw, scalp, and ears. Drop the tension and then sense internally. As tensions in the facial mask are noticed, let them release. Using a relaxed facial mask doesn't mean non-awareness of other body tensions. The facial mask is a feedback mechanism. Although it may appear to be too complex to monitor all the tensions in the body, by focusing on the facial mask, you can become aware of tensions in the rest of the body. Dropping the mask does not mean stone face. The face should be alive while activating a relaxed mask. Do not allow the energy to drop when dropping the mask. The mask serves as the director of the rest of the body. We can learn to keep the whole body relaxed by monitoring the tensions in the facial mask. As you do this exercise, notice how tensions will reappear. Just because we relax once does not mean we stay relaxed. Make the effort of attention needed to scan for tensions as they emerge. Now moving into diffused vision. Look straight ahead. Spread your arms out to the sides so that you cannot see your hands. Then, wiggling your fingers, slowly bring your hands forward until you first notice the fingers moving out of the corner of your eyes. This is your peripheral range of vision. Now reach your arms overhead, and without moving your head, look for the moving fingers as you slowly lower your arms. When you first see the fingers, that is the vertical range of vision. Now, unfocus your eyes to take in a panoramic view of the entire range of vision. Observe the large area that makes up your total field of vision, much greater than when your vision is focused on single objects. While doing this exercise, be sure to monitor your facial mask in order to clear any tensions that arise. Notice that keeping your vision diffused requires moment-to-moment attention. Without effort, our vision is naturally drawn to focus onto a narrow portion of the available scope of vision. We all did this. And it's, and so by our that natural tendency that our eyes want to be drawn to something, it's helpful to find something a few feet in front of you to place your eyes on. And then the natural ability to want to focus can be there. But at the same time, you're using your attention to really see everything. So when you're in this state, now scanning your body for tensions and releasing them, maintaining your posture, go back to looking at the room as a whole, bringing your attention to scanning your body for tension and releasing it, bringing your attention to your posture, bring your attention to the room, and cycle between that for another minute or so. Notice the quality of light, where the light sources are coming from, how big the room feels. At some point you might notice a fog or a mist coming in, a softening of the space, that items in the background might just kind of disappear if they're not part of your focus. Now take a few big deep breaths. Come back to yourself. And take a few moments to journal any impressions or thoughts, questions. And then we'll take a minute and discuss anything you have regarding these exercises. Okay, how are we doing? So I'm sitting over here so that we can see everybody but Melody. So Melody, if you're gonna say anything, actually, no, I have to do it over there. So, actually, Melody, why don't you go sit in that chair and I can put it on you when you
great.
talk. Yeah, you get in the hot seat. So, who would like to go first to share any comments?
I can't.
Okay. All right, you're up.
So just prior to us starting this whole exercise, out of my peripheral, I was kind of looking at you, and then all of a sudden it looked like smoke was rising off the mouse.
Oh.
I was like, take note of that. Okay. And then move over. So when we did the place of power and the draining exercise and all of that, I could just feel kind of like a wave go over as I was breathing, kind of like releasing things. And as soon as I thought it was all released, then I'd be like, oh, well, there's that little thing here. So then I kind of breathe, and then that would go through. But when I came back after that, there were like 3 flames in the one candle. And then it was kind of like the 2 on the outside were kind of doing this, and then the one was kind of just straight. The room, when we shifted, I felt it kind of like, in that scene from The Matrix where he realizes once he jumps into the agent and then explodes and the whole room goes woo,
Oh, yeah,
like that.
right.
It felt like that kind of. And then when we did the removal of the social mask, I noticed that I was trying to like, stay relaxed, and then my left eye kept twitching, and then my right eye would twitch, and I'm like, okay. But I was noticing just little tiny, minute kind of tingling or pinpoint areas on my face that I was feeling different things than up here. With the diffused vision and the dreamer's stare, I noticed that it allowed the room to shift, like substantially. It changed a lot. It kind of felt like it expanded out, but then I was seeing it kind of like going like this, almost like the room was breathing. And how to explain it? It was almost like it was kind of getting darker and then lighter.
Yeah, I've seen that whole scene before.
Yeah, and it was like a ebb and flow, like a wave of kind of like more light and then less light. It was kind of like it was breathing dark, like the shadows, and then more light to it. It seemed. It was almost like a kaleidoscope here and there. There was like different things that I could see, but a lot of the furniture and stuff I couldn't see. I could see you, but all of this stuff I couldn't really focus on.
Yeah.
I was trying to, but I couldn't really perceive it as much as the space itself.
It's hard to focus on everything at once, and because when you do, it just kind of, it's like when you're doing contact and you're trying to look at somebody else and see their eyes, but you're also trying to take in their whole face. You can't really do both at the
And
same
at a point,
time.
the whole face just goes
And
away.
Yeah,
and it turns
so
into
at
something
some
else.
point things actually start disappearing because they're not necessary, and it's part of it is your mind's way of clearing out what too many stimuluses at the other end of the spectrum. It's not really there to begin with. It's only what's here is what we decide collectively needs to be here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So anything else you want to add to that?
I think they covered it.
Okay. So what about you ladies?
So my experiences were similar. Biggest thing I noticed was everything was more intense in this group, doing it with this combined energy, than when I work on doing this myself. It's like the combined energy brought it all to a higher level, higher vibration. I do that relaxation thing a lot. I never even realized I was doing I do it in connection with meditations.
Right.
I do. Never really even realized that it was part.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was draining. So it was kind of really cool to kind of feel those shifts as I've worked with them before. And then the other thing that was really interesting is as we were doing that dreamer stare or diffuse vision,
Mhm.
it was my experience was more that it was like a fog,
Yeah.
and less than the light and dark coming
Yeah.
in. And then I started noticing, which was kind of a surprise, I started feeling like little subtle energies coming in from that periphery. And I thought that was really kind of cool. I
Yeah.
don't know that I've been consciously aware of that before.
That's why at one point I kind of prompted you to kind of feel the sense that there's something building in the room. It's the energy that we're building becomes almost palatable. If it's a chaotic energy, it could be moving all over the place, but otherwise it's this building, pulsing kind of energy.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It was very subtle, very light, but it was definitely something that you could feel. And it wasn't chaotic at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
It just felt like everything was in harmony, kind of thing.
The reason why the group exercises are good is because that collective energy, especially if we can all be doing the same thing at the same time, it makes it much more palatable, much more tangible that you can feel it. Part of that has to do with preparing the space earlier and moving out things that aren't really necessary. But at the same time, it's the focused attention of more than one person. So realize that everything that you can do is going to be greater when we do it as a group. So it's like, so that's why, it's good to work as a group because we have potentially more power that way. And it's kind of like my comment that if we had to go into a spiritual battle right now. I remember Coyote sent us an email one time. It was just random, out of the blue. He never explained it or anything. But it was like, first gut instinct. What would you choose? He said, if you had to go to battle right now, would you choose to go with Kachora, who is his benefactor, with EJ, or with a guy named Jerry Cornelius, who was part of the Thelemic stuff that they were involved with at that time, who does more Western magic kind of things. Well, hands down, almost everybody chose Kachora because that's really the lineage, but that's not the point. The point is hands down, right now, if you had to choose who you're going to battle with, it's like, whose team do you want to be on? And who are the other players, and can you trust them to be on track? So you'll notice when we do the group work if there's leaks or holes or lack of attention or draws and distractions and things. And again, we're just learning. We're all doing really good with Brendan crying right now, but at some point it will start to wear on us and we'll all crack. So let me read Sarah's. She says, this always makes me feel like my eyes are darting around when they aren't. Everything gets distorted and I start getting really sleepy. And then she goes on to say, I did one of Claude's candle exercises that was like this. It was supposed to be for 30 minutes, but at 18 minutes I felt like I was going to pass out and I had to quit at 20 minutes. Well, that was one thing that I was saying earlier, Sarah, is that when I was looking at Claude's books the other day, or even this ABD material, it starts us out at 25 minutes, and then we're supposed to be building up from there. So that kind of shows you where we're at, and believe me, not all of us have these aspects mastered where you can hold attention for really long periods of time. There needs to be kind of an ebb and a flow. There needs to be not, because your mind's going to want to be thinking, when's that break point? When do I get to stop doing this? But before we start, we're all like, oh, I'm going to buy this cool candle exercise book and I'm going to start doing these meditations and I'm going to start doing this. And then you start, I don't want to do this, And so there's a lot of mental monkey chatter that goes into that process. But the darting of the eye thing has to do with giving yourself a better focal point And I don't know if you've probably been doing this at night or when you may already be sleepy. So one of the things that I found that was helpful for me to get the best out of the exercises was try to do them in the morning after I first wake up. So wake up, go to the bathroom, and especially like working with the dreaming where you're gonna fall asleep because you're tired and sleepy, and then you're gonna go into a deep sleep and you're not gonna be able to dream. So you have to be in a state where you're in that in between states. So work with your meditation with eyes open. I'm thinking that the darting of the eyes is partly stress on the eyes. And this happens to me, and the same thing happens when my eyes start darting around. I start to get dizzy and sleepy. Now let me just say something about the sleep part of this is that as we go through chambers that have a different vibration in it, every one of us will fall asleep at one point. Not at the same time. It really has to do with where we're at, what chambers we can actually navigate through. So you need to understand that when you're in a presence of a shaman, and we've seen this with the invocational dinners, is that we're being taken on a journey. And it's not just a continuous journey. We need to think about our real experiences and the Bardo experiences and these journey experiences as being a bunch of snapshots. We're here, and then we're here, and then we're here, and then we're here. But each one of those snapshots is a different space. There's different energies and things happening there. And as we go through each of those spaces, we're going to do better or worse, depending on the vibrations, of staying awake physically. Now the key is, are you awake or conscious spiritually? There's a lot of times, the first couple of times I went to EJ's, I think most of you did pretty good, but I slept through half of it. Now, partially because I had a sinus infection, and so I had a lot of pressure in my head already. And that's where the stress on your eyes may be part of the problem with you being able to hold your focus. So you want to make sure always that you're in the best physical preparation, like eating a bunch of food and then going and trying to do meditation is probably a guarantee that you're going to fall asleep, But there's times when there's a weight or a heaviness that happens on the eyes. Mm-hmm. And you can shut your eyes and still be completely aware of everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. So know that during the intensive that you're going to have periods like that. There will be, a whole section that you missed because you were asleep, And that's even happened for Golden Eagle when he's gone through different intensives with Coyote. But there was a higher alertness that was still going on there. So to whatever your ability is you try to hold on to it. So what I would say, Sarah, with the candle exercise and some of these is just work your way up. Back off to, set it for 10 or 15 minutes to begin with. And then work up from there. Because you are really seriously, physically training your body and energetically training your consciousness and attention. And there's little safety mechanisms in there. It's like most people don't remember falling. There's a blackout period in between the initial trip and fall versus the hitting of the ground and becoming aware of what just happened. And that's a safety mechanism. We black out so that we don't register all the trauma, and that's why people who go through traumatic situations can block some of that out, is because there's that mechanism in there. So on one hand, what we're doing here is we're turning off the fire alarms. We're turning off the little safety mechanisms. We're taking ourselves off of autopilot. And we need to do it in a loving, gentle way because we don't want our body to freak out and say, no, I'm going to die if you do that, And we do. We have all these little things that we tell ourselves that we're going to die. if we do these kind of things. So those are good comments. Let me know if that kind of answered it. But I think bringing your time back down a little bit and making sure you're not exhausted when you're trying to do these kind of things. I don't know if you wear glasses or contacts, but doing things to lubricate the eyes to make sure they feel cool. Even now, one of the key differences, did anybody really notice the difference in these instructions versus when we've done this before, especially when it's been read straight out of the conduit manual? One of the big differences is he's saying bring your attention to, and we talk a lot about using the Akadua to sense, so using the Akadua even in a cooler frequency or something to just place on the eyes and just give it a few minutes of setting energy with the intent of refocusing and relaxing the eyes, because part of the social mass stuff, we don't have to physically go through and do all the acupressure stuff physically. Just bringing the attention with the Akadua, with the intent of releasing that, is going to. We hold all sorts of tension in our face, and what the instructions were saying is that there's correspondences to points on the face and other points in the body. So the whole key here is you really want to get relaxed before you can even start doing some of these other things. So like in the next exercise, it basically says, do all of this stuff first, now do this exercise. So what we're trying to do is get to a point where we don't have to do each one of these separately and maybe it takes 5 or 6 breaths of, okay, bring my attention sweeping down my body, kind of just brushing it with the Akadua, feeling for tension, releasing that tension, scanning again, and then releasing these social masks, these any tension in the face, and then essentially opening the eyes to the dreamer's stare. That can be done relatively quickly, even now, and be effective. So the key then is to remember to do this when your house is burning down, when your relationships are falling apart, when your rent is late, and we have that knee-jerk reaction to run back and, I got to work more hours, I got to do something to get money, rather than trusting the process and putting it out there as to what we need and manifesting what we need. So it's that knee-jerk panic attack thing that should be the trigger to us to tell us that we are no longer in our place of power. And so what we want to do when we're coming back into each session during the level 4 is we'll take a break. We can deal with ordinary reality things. We can make phone calls. We can do, exercise. We may have some job responsibilities throughout the weekend where we need to, if we're not doing something else, we need to be helping doing, something in particular. But that is your break. So use it wisely, but don't allow all of your energy that's been built to diminish. You want to be able to let off of it and then bring it back up quickly. So turning down the flame, turning up the flame, but never extinguishing the flame. And this is going to be difficult because most of us are used to having a time where, I just need to get out of here for a minute, run to town and have coffee or something, whatever our little MO is for releasing tension. And it's not physical tension, it's that energetic tension of being on. And you know how it is sometimes when you're at work. It's a drudge or whatever, but you just have to kick it up and you're just muscling through it, and then you come home and fall apart. You also know that there's probably been times where you get into the zone and it's like, I have all this energy and everything is easy and you just kind of are tripping around in the space and, everything works out. Those aren't accidents. So those are conditions that we can learn to create depending on how we hold and contain our energy and work with the energies in the spaces that we're in. comments, questions? You haven't talked yet.
I noticed that with both exercises that the assemblage point was doing something different.
Mm.
And that the clearing thing, the clearing exercises, it's like the Katawa was clearing it.
Right.
And it was me too, but and the assemblage point is taking part in the clearing and the removing of the mask. And there was a vibration that was really pleasant. That was creation, like a plane, like all the planes were, the rays, were clearing.
Oh, okay.
And let's see, let me read what I wrote, because I said the dreaming exercise, I could really feel the assemblage point, the whole structure, there's a vibration, a subtle vibration. Let's see, the assemblage point starts vibrating, and it was life force vibration, kind of like a Kundalini vibration, yet more subtle and gentler.
Yeah.
So I knew that was from my Kundalini experience that it was actually life force in creation. And there's kind of a euphoric feeling to it that was subtler
Euphoric? Yeah.
than the Kundalini energy. And I had better eyesight than I do normally in the world. In my side vision, I have freaky good side vision anyhow, but it really goes out, and everything was shape shifting, and it was expansive, and it felt like the rooms connected with source, and it just got big and elemental.
Yeah.
The elements were really connected, and yeah.
Okay. So we've been at this now for almost an hour. And so for the most part, how do you all feel about your focus on what's been imparted, what you experienced, and your need to break the space right now?
I don't need to break this.
I feel okay. I have a question though. You mentioned twice about opening your eyes in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just talking about in these exercises or when we're doing our meditation in our daily practice? Because I don't ever. I close my eyes and go to bed. Is that something that we should?
You should be able to
Adjust.
meditate dancing.
I do have some waking meditations. Like when I'm washing dishes, I tend to go into a meditation, but I'm awake and aware
Right.
the eyes are open.
Right.
But when I go into the
Yeah.
meditation, the daily practice, it's always quieting everything.
And
closing my
that's
eyes.
good as long as you're pushing the limits of that. So you like for example, I lived with a Buddhist once who believed that there's nothing you're trying to accomplish in a Buddhist meditation. You're just simply trying to clear and quiet the mind. And that's true for Buddhism 101. And she would have kept doing that for another 30 years because that's all she thought there was to it. The idea then is to allow something to come through. So at some point there's this quieting of the mind, and that can happen. What we're learning with the consciousness exercises is how to use our second and third attention. How to, have a jumping monkey on your lap and still be able to listen to the discussions and potentially have another part of your attention somewhere else as well. And so when you can do each one of those effectively, then you're good. What we try to do in society all the time is juggle stuff all the time, and so we walk into their kitchen, we can't remember what we went in there for, because we weren't really clear about why we were going to the kitchen in the first place. So that's where setting the intent comes in, and then holding your attention long enough to go in there and do what you need to do. The other thing that happens is that we spend a lot of our time thinking about the past, and where the exercises where we've ended this. Now we end this session, we go into the other room and we have lunch. Sure, there might be things that start coming up. Oh wow, that was, but we're not really attending to lunch and doing the things we need to do in there consciously if we're still thinking about what happened in here. So we do a lot of this carrying stuff from one room to the next, one space to the next, one lifetime to the next. And it's in there. Do you have a question about that?
Why do we do that?
Why do we do that?
Yeah.
We're a little overwhelmed in this lifetime. I mean, I think that there's a lot going on that our ancestors didn't have to do. They didn't have to know everybody's cell phone number and, all these different gadgets and navigate traffic and worry about sexual predators and all of these different things that young people in particular never had to worry about necessarily, or be conscious of. So we're filling our consciousness with a lot of stuff. We're also filling it with a lot of junk, with low budget movies and, just politics and propaganda and all of these things that are purposely drawing us in different attention or, distractions. It's just kind of like she made a wonderful conscious meal for us last night, but I finally came in and said, there's no way that you could be 100% there and having your kids under your feet, So at some point you have to kind of separate out, okay, and do what you have to do. And it's not that you're not focusing still on those different things, but it can't just all be jumbled up together, and that's how we live on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, living by lesser laws, or not lesser laws, lesser rules, less rules, means taking responsibility for where you're at all the time. And in that way, think about it, if we have a rule that says you drive on, this side of the road and this side of the road, and you don't, and there's a little line painted in the middle of the road, and we all honor that. If we didn't honor that, then we'd have to have more rules and more barriers and things like that to control us. So as long as we agree and do things on our own, then we don't have to have a bunch of rules. But the idea is what we rail against, what the ego is not going to be happy about with some of these instructions is, I have to do that. You're going to make me, you're going to put a time, you're going to time me, and you're going to make me sit here, and, I don't get to move and leave when I want to. And, so it starts to freak out. So there has to be this understanding that, okay, well, we're doing this for just a period of time. In fact, some of the best stop smoking programs and addiction programs have to do with, don't worry about what you're going to do next week when you go to the party and everybody's drinking and smoking. Make a decision right now in this moment whether you're going to smoke or not. You have a choice. You always have a choice. We live in a free world universe. But we're used to thinking we don't have choices, so that when we're asked to make a conscious choice to not do garlic and onions, or something for one day, oh my God, I might die, There's this thing that in our ego that has a self-defense mechanism. And so the going back and forth to the refrigerator and stuff is just simply because we're just overloaded. And because there's conscious things out there trying to distract us, and conscious things that are trying to keep us suppressed and illiterate and not connected. So, yeah. So we have to put a little bit of effort anyway to engage in. Okay, at least for the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to eat garlic and onions. So. Okay, so any questions before we move on? We are going to do one more exercise. So what I'd like you to do, to the best of your ability, is get to your place of power. Nope. And you're gonna release your tensions. Brush yourself with the Akadua. You're gonna remove any tensions in your face, in your mask, and release them. Take a big deep breath. Open your eyes in the dreamer's stare. Now collect all of your past attention into the present. You will notice that some of your attention has remained on certain events and experiences in your past. In the much of the same way as small children leave a trail of scattered clothes behind them. Bring each of these scattered bits of attention to you now in the present. Undoubtedly, some of your attention is also on the future, even if it is nothing more than a general worry about what will become of me and my life. Bring this attention also into the present. You might have some attention on your personal hungers, cravings, fears, discomforts, and even upon exactly how I feel about my present situation. Your hungers and also your insecurities about yourself. Your vanities. Even this little bit of attention cannot be spared from the task at hand. Now, gather all the attention that you have collected. Stellan, you need to stop making noise, bud. Select 3 objects within your visual field. Deliberately place your collected, gathered attention on the first object. At the moment you place your attention, let out a little breath, as if you were placing a stone on the object. And don't let go of the stone until the stone is placed. Now lift your attention from the first object and place it on the second object in the same way. Next, withdraw your attention from the second object and deliberately place your attention on the third object. Repeat the process of placing and withdrawing your attention several times using the 3 objects. So when you're back from that exercise, go ahead and journal your results. We're going to wait and talk about the results of this, and we're going to repeat this exercise when we get back. And we'll talk about any of your impressions with it then. And Sarah, we're gonna take a lunch break until 1:15. So we'll be back in probably 45 minutes to an hour. So make sure that you journal your results from this activity. We're gonna do the same activity when we get back. So let me know if you have any questions before we go offline. Okay.
Hey, little Worminator, did you pay for this? Did you pay for this here workshop?
Yeah.
You did?